global event that the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture would like to cordially welcome to the House of Agriculture in the Americas on the occasion of launch of the Living Soils Initiative in the Americas. We would like to greet the distinguished ministers and secretaries of the countries of the Americas that have already joined us. Also, we would like to greet the distinguished authorities that accompany us. Greetings to Dr. Rattan Lal, Director of the Carbon Management and Sequestration Center of the Ohio State University, the Director General of IICA, Dr. Manuel Otero, and its Deputy Director, Mr. Lloyd Day, as well as representatives from international funding agencies and private sector organizations, and representatives of the media. And also, all our guests and those that have joined us through social media. I would like to give the floor now to the Director General of IICA, Dr. Manuel Otero, to open this event and for a few welcome remarks, and also to Ms. Kelly Witovri. Go ahead, Dr. Otero. We are coming back to the ICA headquarters of the House of Agriculture of the Americas here in Costa Rica. We are having a little technical problem. Okay, we're back. Good morning. Thank you, Guido. Good morning to everyone. Thank you once again for attending this event, which is so relevant to ICA. This marks the beginning of a partnership spearheaded by the world's leading authority on soil science, Professor Rattan Lal, and the center headed by him, the Carbon Management and Sequestration Center of the Ohio State University. Special greetings to him on the occasion of the launch of this ambitious initiative, as Guido said, the Living Soils in the Americas initiative. We recognize in a very special way the presence of the ministers of Bahamas, St. Kitts and Nevis, Costa Rica, Deputy Secretaries of Agriculture of Argentina, Julian Echezarreta, of the United States, Mr. Scott Hutchins, the representatives of multilateral international funding agencies, international and private sector cooperation agencies, and civil society organizations, whose interest and commitment, I am sure, will be reflected in the permanent growth of this alliance that is so significant for the sustainable development of our continent. The establishment of ICA in 1942 was a visionary response to counter the effects of a disruptive global crisis, the phantom of the shortage of raw materials. 78 years later, the world is shaken by another crisis that forces us to put the best of all of us, in the case of ICA, to ratify its status as an innovative and resilient institution with the responsibility to effectively address the pressing problems that hinder agricultural and rural development in the Americas. The current health crisis and its profound socioeconomic impacts, the urgent need to endorse and fulfill the commitments under global conventions and the 2030 Agenda, and the challenge to strengthen and adapt our agri-food systems to the post-pandemic era, force us to be even closer to the countries, their ministries and secretariats, farmers, the private sector, and all stakeholders representing the agricultural sector and rural life in the Americas. In the midst of the consternation brought about by the effects of the pandemic, one fact is indisputable. Agriculture is still standing on its feet, and despite all the limitations, it has been capable of generating a food supply that is appropriate to the circumstances. At the same time, it has managed to maintain, in most cases, a proactive position in international markets, which has allowed it to demonstrate once again its strategic nature that positions or gives the Institute a key role in the reactivation of our countries. I would like to present some data that illustrate and confirm that ICA has a past, a present, and most of all, a future that is firmly linked to agriculture. We are the most important net food exporting region in the world. One of every four global jobs it comes from the agricultural sector. One of every job and 20% of our population lives in rural areas, and the generation of close to 300,000, 300 billion of agricultural production is linked to agriculture. Agriculture cannot stop, but we must face a challenge of continue to provide an abundant supply of cheap and nutritious foods to serve the most vulnerable populations at a time where they are being hit by poverty, food insecurity, and social inequality. One of the main urgent challenges facing our region is the need to address soil degradation, which affects close to 50% of the land in South America and 74% of the land in Mesoamerica. A worsening of this problem is often associated with the lack of profitability of our productive system. As Dr. Lau always reminds us, when a farmer suffers, he ends up transferring that suffering to the soil. That is why we're here today to launch an initiative that will allow us to prevent, reduce, and reverse the scourge of soil degradation. We have chosen a special day to do this, the eve of the commemoration of the World Soil Day. This program is spearheaded by Dr. Rattenlal, Goodwill Ambassador of ICA and recipient of the World Food Prize 2020. Through him, ICA confirms the commitment to act in a pragmatic way through his team of professionals, its network of 34 offices in the continent, its project portfolio, and its wide range of strategic partners. Also, providing feedback about the Institute's contributions for its participation in the UN Food Systems Summit in 2021. What is a living soil? It is nothing more than a soil with adequate drainage capacity and structure, which breathes and lives through its living organisms and acts as a sink for greenhouse gases, which returns to those who treat it properly, increasing levels of productivity, ecosystem services, biodiversity, and, in, in a nutshell, provides more well being to the families who live in it. Amid the worrisome current situation, we know that a majority of our countries in our continent are very much aware that the soil is the main tool available to farmers, and that is why they are implementing programs to deal with the existing problems, obtaining in many cases promising results. Such is the case in South America with direct planting, agro-silvopastoral integration, protective crops, and the recovery of degraded pastures. In Central America, we see with hope the work done by institutions committed to promoting science-based practices to improve soil management and therefore water management, a scarce resource in regions such as the dry corridor. No less important are the initiatives in the Caribbean to transform organic waste into compost, or in the Andean region with the application of ancestral techniques. We are encouraged to see how countries in Latin America and the Caribbean respond to the need to fight desertification by implementing novel approaches such as voluntary targets to achieve land degradation neutrality. All of these are encouraging signs along our path towards a regenerative agriculture. The private sector and civil society institutions are also key actors in the search for new science based alternatives, such as the use of bio inputs and the professionalization of our farmers in adopting good environmental practices. We need to build up and join all those efforts by promoting intercooperation and developing forums for coordination and integration. This is the essence and rationale for this joint initiative, Living Soils in the Americas, with the Ohio State University and a qualified group of strategic allies. ICA is an institution focused on action. We listen to countries and to their needs, and we respond with work, coordinating skills and knowledge. In our work, acting as a bridge, alliances with the public and private sectors, with universities and centers of excellence, with civil society organizations and producer organizations will be key to the success of this initiative. We are renewing here our commitment to a soil centered health approach to allow the farming sector to continue to be the basis of food and nutritional security in the future for our countries and our planet. I would like to thank Dr. Ratnlal for sharing this initiative. His work has benefited millions of producers around the world, and we are sure that through this program we're launching today, we will deepen all that work, spreading it throughout the entire continent. Without a doubt, the systemic approach of health and well being of soils, plants, animals, and people is the conceptual and operational framework that will inspire and motivate more professionals, governments, and institutions to join this effort for the benefit of agriculture, its protagonists, and all mankind. Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you, Mr. Manuel Otero, Director General of IICA. And now we will listen to a presentation by Dr. Rattenlaw. He is the director of the Carbon Management and Sequestration Center of the Ohio State University. He was a co-recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize in 2007. He received the World Food Prize this year, and he's also a Goodwill Ambassador of ICA. Professor Rattenlaw.
Thank you. Can
You
you
have the
please
floor.
hear me and can you see my slides?
Sí, 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 sí.
Thank you. Dr. Otero, Ministers of Agriculture and Environment, Excellencies, colleagues and friends, it's a great honor and privilege to be a partner, cooperators with ICA in this very important program. I have acronymed it in English LISA, Living Soils in the Americas. But today we are launching this on a World Soil Day. So I'd like to wish everyone a very happy World Soil Day. To give you some background, in 2002, the World Congress of Soil Science by the International Union of Soil Sciences was held in Bangkok, Thailand. And the Congress was inaugurated by the late King Bhumi Bol Atulya Tej. The word bhumi in Sanskrit is soil. Bol is the power. Atulya Tej is unique, the unique power of protection of the soil. Very appropriate name. And on that, his birthdays, King's birthday, 5th of December, we celebrate as the recommendation of the United Nations as the World Soil Day. This was unanimously adopted on 68th UN General Assembly. So it reminds us that the United Nations believes, very rightly so, that the soils are very important. I'd like to also congratulate and again reinforce what Dr. Otero already said, that Latin American countries are the lead exporter of many food products, including soybean, corn, sugar, coffee, fruits, vegetables, animal feed, pork, poultry, and many other things. Brazil export $79.3 billion worth, Argentina 35, Mexico 32.5, Chile 17, Ecuador 10, Peru almost 9. There's an overall trade surplus of $104 billion. This is commendable. I congratulate these countries and ICA for its leadership in achieving such a remarkable progress. This progress of increased production come from cropland. The area between 61 and 2018 increased by a factor of 1.6, but the yield increase of cereals was by a factor of 3.4. Soybean, the area increased from 0.3 million hectare in 1961 to 57 million hectare by almost a factor of 200, but the yield increased from 3.2 ton to 4.8 by a factor of 1.5. Potato, the SIP program in Lima, although the area stayed the same, the yield increased by a factor of 3.4. There are many other examples, such as ethanol-based alcohol from sugarcane, and all these impressive achievements are made partly by input of fertilizers. For example, the fertilizer use increased from 1 million ton in 61 to 26 million ton now by a factor of 26.3. Fertilizer consumption per hectare also increased from 84 kilogram in 2000 to more than 150 kilogram at present, almost increased over a couple of decades by a factor of 1.7. Pesticide use increased from 190,000 tons in 1991 to 831,000 tons by a factor of 4.4 over a period of 3 decades. So tremendous amounts of inputs. Similarly, area under irrigation increased in 1961.8 million hectare to 2018 27 million hectare by a factor of 33. However, there has been, as Dr. Otero already mentioned, tremendous problem of soil degradation. More than 68% of soil in South America is prone to soil erosion. 100 million hectare prone to degradation by deforestation. 70 million hectare because of overgrazing. Soil degradation of cropland in South America, 45%. And Mesoamerica, 74%. So in the meantime, the emission of greenhouse gases from agriculture in some of the high input agricultural countries, Argentina, Colombia, Costa Rica, etc., may be as much as 44% or 40%. Uruguay, 75% contribution of agriculture compared with total. And out of this, the cropland and animal land both contributes almost 50-50. So agriculture is a major source of greenhouse gas emission, something that need to be addressed compared with global, for example, 25 to 30%, both direct and indirect. Despite all this progress, very impressive progress, undernourishment and hunger affects 31 million people. The COVID-19 has increased that number by another 5.3 million, something that we must address. Poverty, 49%, extreme poverty, 23%, including those of small landholders. Small landholders, who was 81% of the total farms, occupy only 23% of the total farmland. The LAC region amounts are 14% of the global land degradation. From 65 to 2015, water extraction has doubled at a rate much higher than that of the world average. Conservation agriculture, adopted by many progressive countries, is not being adopted by small landholders. Livestock greenhouse gas emission I already mentioned 2 gigaton of CO2 equivalent. Projected increase in temperature in the lake between 2020 and 2050 may be as much as 1 to 4 degrees centigrade. Projected decrease in yield of rice in Central America may be 31%, of corn in Brazil 15%, of cereals 10 to 30% in lake, and of wheat yield in Brazil alone 30%. Negative impact of climate change. The rate of growth of agriculture compared to 3.7% in the Pacific can be increased in the LAC region, which is currently at 2.7%. And the LAC region is among the leading exporters of the virtual water in agricultural produce, which in the low water regions is really something to be addressed. So these are some of the challenges of meeting sustainable development goals, of reconciling the need to produce more with the absolute necessity to improve the environment and restore degraded soils. And that is what we call soil-centric approach. That's what Dr. Otero mentioned. We are cooperating with IICA and with many of you institutions and the private sector by adopting a soil-centric approach to reconcile the need for achieving food and nutrition security with the absolute necessity of restoring the environment and mitigating global warming. It's not either or. We have to have both. And that's what this project is aiming at. So the action needed by the Living Soil Project, LISA, between 2020 and 2030 to improve agriculture, reduce greenhouse gas emission from agriculture that we wish to achieve, improve soil health and agronomic productivity, decrease carbon footprint of agriculture, remove CO2 from the atmosphere and sequester in soil and vegetation, and include soil restoration as an integral component of the national and regional program throughout Latin America. We want to protect carbon in soils, forests, wetlands, and natural ecosystems. So these are some of the things which we want to do. We will promote farming carbon. Farming carbon means restoring health of degraded and depleted soils by increasing organic matter content and improving eco-efficiency so that we can produce more from less, especially reduce the inputs, which I indicated already are quite high. Therefore, soil organic carbon, if it can be improved, maybe we can reduce the need for nitrogen. Here are some examples. Increasing soil organic carbon from 0.5% to 1% could reduce nitrogen fertilizer inputs by 50% at an input rates of less than 50 kilogram of nitrogen per hectare. There was another study done in the United States that each additional percent of organic matter in soil would save 31 kilogram of nitrogen per hectare. And at a price of $1.50 per kilogram of nitrogen, that would save $46 per hectare just in nitrogen fertilizer alone. Saving of water is another very important part, especially for drier parts of Latin American region. Increasing soil organic carbon by mass by 1%. There are many examples that show the available water capacity could be increased depending upon the texture and mineralogy of the soil. Therefore, the objective of the LISA project, the living soil in Central South America, is to assess soil organic carbon stock and flux for key ecosystems representative of the LAC region. Relate soil organic carbon stock and flux to agronomic productivity. Evaluate savings in fertilizers, irrigation, energy per unit increase in soil organic carbon stock. We want to validate models and ground truthing data of predicting carbon stock, evaluating productivity, assessing the impact of climate change. And we want to develop scaling protocol, how to scale up at the continental level from the data which may be available from landscape or soilscape level. And of course, we want to provide training opportunities, which Ohio State would be delighted to work with region to provide training to both graduate as well as non-graduate students. And of course, we want to identify policies, pro-farmer policies, pro-nature policies, and we will promote Soil Health Act at both national and the regional and continental level. So the overall strategy is to make soils and agriculture a solution to climate change mitigation and adaptation. Soils of the managed ecosystem, crops, pastures, forests, urban lands have a large carbon sink capacity, and this must be harnessed by adaptation and mitigation of climate change, climate friendly, climate smart agricultural practices. Soils of these ecosystems can be a sink for atmospheric CO2 through judicious management and adopting the science-based options. What are the actions that will be adopted by LISA project between 20 and 2030? We will limit greenhouse gas emissions of agriculture, improve soil health and agronomic productivity, decrease carbon footprint, remove CO2 from the atmosphere and store in the soil and biomass, include soil restoration as an integral component of the national regional program, and protect soil in forest and vegetation. The idea is to establish few sites, even in the first year, as a field laboratories in cooperation with many national and international participating institutions. Ecoregions that we will select are those where information is not available, and we can perhaps learn from wherever it is available. But different biomes of the entire region, we will establish some transact through the major regions that cover the entire continent and all the countries, including the Caribbean regions. We could also, for example, use the soil map produced by FAO, ITPS reports, and we could select transact on the soil basis as well, so that we can cover over a period of time, 5 years, perhaps more, hopefully more, major soil types as well as the biome, so we can evaluate the productivity, soil health, soil carbon nexus. These are some of the examples. And of course, most of the things will be coordinated through IICA as well as in cooperation with Ohio State. So our goal is, compared with the seed-centric revolution, which has made LAC region one of the leading exporter of the food products, we will like to adopt a second green revolution, which is more like soil-centric, soil health-based, and it addresses all farmers, especially the small landholders from throughout the regions, including the Caribbean. Our goal is no farmer to be left behind. With that, I wish you all a very happy World Soil Day, and personally and professionally on behalf of the Ohio State University, we are looking forward to working with IICA and you all in addressing the issues of global significance. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ratanlal. Thank you for your very interesting contribution you just made. This very interesting presentation, the roadmap, and all the presentation to not leave anyone behind. We will now hear the ministers and secretaries and senior officers present. We will hear the comments of all of them regarding this Living Soils of the America initiative. First of all, I would like to invite Honorable Michael Pintard, Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources of the Bahamas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Your Excellencies, friends, greetings from the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Today, on the eve of World Soil Day, we gather to highlight the importance of healthy soils and to underscore the central role soil plays in the overall health of our ecosystems. To paraphrase Dr. Ratan Lal, soil health is interconnected to plant health, animal health, food security, and human health. They are all inextricably bound and indivisible. The complex living system known as soil is made up of millions of creatures and is essential for the production of food, biodiversity, carbon sequestration, and other environmental benefits. Hence, the need to highlight the importance of sustainable management of it. So important are our soils that we must intentionally incentivize those that responsibly manage it and sanction and or punish those that abuse it. There's growing awareness in the Americas in general and the Caribbean in particular of the fact that soil carbon and the carbonate minerals and organic matter found in soils play an important role in the productivity of agriculture. The amount of carbon stored in the soil is being negatively impacted, as we are all aware, by the way we utilize our land and by our current agricultural practices. This is most unfortunate as it is contributing to global warming. Despite the Caribbean's relatively small contribution to greenhouse gas emission, we are taking responsibility for our role by gradually overhauling our legislation policies and introducing programs and projects that assist in soil health and that promote resilience. The Paris Accord Agreement recommended limiting global warming by removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. However, policies such as planting forests to absorb carbon on a large scale, unfortunately, requires too much land, water, and energy, though very important, making it a very costly venture. A more efficient route, some suggest, can be the utilization of carbon in the soil as a mode of removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. The Bahamas has submitted a concept note for review to Jeff entitled Integrated Landscape Management for Addressing Land Degradation, Food Security, and Climate Resilience Challenges in the Bahamas. The concept note, which is a collaborative effort with, among others, the Ministry of Agriculture and Marine Resources, IICA, and the Department of Environmental Planning and Protection, proposed to demonstrate the application of integrated landscape management approaches through a strengthened planning process and exhibit good practice within landscape areas that are subject to degradation. This will be supported by strengthened monitoring and assessment tools for decision-making. Climate smart agriculture systems to be piloted in this project will incorporate climate resilient crops and agroforestry systems, generating multiple benefits that will include maintaining and mitigating further biodiversity loss, enhancing carbon sequestration, and soil carbon storage, along with moisture retention that will contribute to soil health and productivity. The ministry is also working with IICA to implement the short SDG 13, that is Climate Action Project, whose main objective is to train farmers and citizens in organic waste management and composting. Since September 2020, our ministry and IICA have conducted 2 workshops on 5 different islands to train farmers in the science of composting. Demonstration sites have been established on each of these islands and are being monitored by the participants themselves, who've been taught to measure the moisture and temperature of their compost experiments with tools that this project provided. It is through initiatives like this that we hope to create more citizen scientists and compost warriors to aid in creating more productive, healthy soils. I would like, as I close, to congratulate IICA for this new initiative being undertaken, Living Soils in the Americas, which will raise awareness of the needs to strengthen good soil management practices, to develop agricultural strategies aimed at overcoming climate challenges, and strengthen partnerships between the scientific community, the public sector, and the private sector. Ultimately, we know that the best way to combat climate change is to reduce our fossil fuel consumption and move towards renewable energy sources. However, improved agriculture and land management practices that increase soil carbon can also provide benefits. Fertile soils produce more foods, promote biodiversity, hold moisture better, and less susceptible to erosion, floods, nutrient loss, and desertification. This initiative is a reminder of our shared challenge, underscoring that it is in our common interest to collaborate on a mutually beneficial menu of strategies so that our soils, this important global shared resource, is protected and enhanced so that our biodiversity thrives, our ecosystem is strengthened, our food system grows, and the climate challenge is met head on. The Commonwealth of the Bahamas and the Caribbean stands in solidarity with all of you in this regard. Mr. Chairman.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Minister of Agriculture and Marine Resources of the Bahamas, Mr. Michael Pintard. Thank you for your comments. And now I offer the floor to Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Livestock of Costa Rica, Mr. Renato Alvarado. Go ahead, Renato, please. Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you so very much for allowing me to share some words. We have listened very carefully to the importance of soil preservation for better agriculture in our countries. Evidently, in facing the pandemic, those that have overcome and that have helped us maintain development and economic movement has been agriculture. It has not stopped producing. Family agriculture has shown to be one of the main pillars of our countries to guarantee food to the entire population in a sustainable, harmless, safe, and affordable manner so that our populations do not face hunger. It is also true that the pandemic has put on the floor the major shortfalls in the development of our societies that have aimed at being more sustainable and equitable, and has also shown the need for sustainable practices, resilience of our farmers, and the need to sustainably preserve soils in order to continue developing, producing wealth, distributing that wealth, generating employment, generating an economic activity that today will be the driver of development and economic reactivation of Latin America and the Caribbean. From Costa Rica, we have been focusing on searching for sustainability of our farmers, not only on the environmental side and social side, but also the economic side. Our farmers should be profitable. They must be viable, economically viable, so that they continue producing. And we have insisted that we need to repose the trading conditions we are facing today. If we do not have fair trade for our farmers and for their produce, no matter how hard we work on soil conservation, well, to make them produce in a sustainable and resilient manner, well, then we will not be able to ensure farmers remain in the fields and that future generations will want to continue growing our soils. We must begin to have a more holistic view of what our agriculture and our soils are so that our efforts regarding conservation and sustainability of our soils can come to a good end. Costa Rica has been implementing sustainable practices for several decades now, and today even much stronger and with greater emphasis on livestock and coffee production, with the livestock programs that to implement sustainable practices regarding soil recovery, water resource management, soil coverage with enhanced pasture for livestock, applying soil management techniques in coffee growing areas, and looking for banana and sugar cane and rice improvements and productivity that is required for the sustainability of our farmers and the support of larger cities in food terms. I celebrate the fact that we are talking about these matters in greater depth nowadays, and that we are merging among countries regarding the need to protect our soils, protect our environment, but also to begin putting on the table the need for economic sustainability, profitability for our producers, so that we can move on after the pandemic. The effort is significant. The challenge is even greater, but I am sure we can do it if we can join efforts that we are undertaking from different angles in different countries to preserve agriculture. In ending, I would like to thank and celebrate the effort done by IICA, always at the forefront, looking into the future, renewing positions and mindsets, and building that better future for our countries, for our farmers, and for the economic development of our nations. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Honorable Minister of Agriculture and Livestock of Costa Rica, Renato Alvarado. We would now offer the floor to Honorable Alexis Jeffers, Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries, and Marine Resources of St. Kitts and Nevis. Honorable Alexis Jeffers, please.
Señor Ministro de Agricultura.
Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries, and Marine Resources of St. Kitts and Nevis. The floor is yours, please. Can you hear me? May you activate your microphone, please? I can see you connected.
Am I being heard now?
Now we can hear you. Yes, sir.
No, you can hear me. I humbly apologize. These technology is always a challenge. Yes, good morning, and thank you very much, Chair. And I want to greet all of my colleague ministers and honorables who are a part of this meeting this morning. It is certainly my pleasure to bring greetings from the government and people of St. Kitts and Nevis, and to offer our full endorsement of the launch of this program to the Living Soil Initiative. It is one that we strongly believe is important if we are to protect our ecosystems going into the future. What I would like to do this morning is to give a backdrop as to what we've been doing here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and give you an idea as to what we've been doing to protect our soil and our ecosystems, and of course, some of the challenges, of course, that we face. And I'm sure the challenges may not be unique just to St. Kitts and Nevis, but of course, there will be challenges that all of us collectively can speak to. But indeed, I want to give an idea as to what we have been doing here and what our analysis have shown here in the Federation. If I may, I would read for you a presentation that I've put together. Now, the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis comprises of two relatively small islands located in the Leeward Island group of the Eastern Caribbean. The total physical cultivated area is estimated at just about 13,000 acres, of which 98% consist of temporary crops and 2% of permanent crops. Permanent meadows and pastures cover just over 2,000 acres, which brings the agricultural area to a total of about 15,000 acres. The island of St. Kitts consists of a main mountain range in the middle of the island with a peak of about 1,155 meters above sea level. The upper part of the island has steeply sloping volcanic cones with slopes exceeding just about 30%. The lower slopes are gentler, which is less than 10% below the 500-foot contour, and up to 15% between the 500 and 1,000-foot contour. Most of the soil here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis are loamy, sandy soil or sandy loamy soil that have a low water holding capacity and are prone to erosion. The soils in St. Kitts and Nevis have been mapped. We have done that. And the map is in a digital format, which enables us to process them in a geographic information system, which is GIS. The soil data attached to these maps are, well, they're relatively complete. The soil maps of St. Kitts and Nevis was prepared by the GIS lab in the physical planning division of the planning unit. In this study, 8 soil classes and a database for 38 mapping units can be found. These soils originate mostly from volcanic rocks. Soils on the island of St. Kitts and Nevis are young, relatively young, with moderate to low depth. In some regions, present some degree of stoniness and boulders. Most of the soils present have loamy and sandy textures, as I said before, and soil fertility varies from moderately high to very low, with a preponderance of moderately high, fertility soil or fertile soil. Lands which are, for example, 1,000 feet above sea level are designated as the forest reserve, where no development is permitted, thus protecting soil from erosion and encouraging soil health. The large Southeast Peninsula, which is a protected area here in St. Kitts, is primarily covered with shrub vegetation, while the remaining lower elevation landscape is made up of rocky areas, a salt pond, and beaches. Mid-level elevations are characterized by mixed uses, including grazing, farming for food, and also tree crop and secondary vegetation. By rule, lands are not left bare of vegetation here in the Federation. For example, gullies that are prone to erosion are usually cultivated with tree crops. Most agricultural production takes place at the lower to mid-level elevations within the Federation. Up until 2005, however, sugarcane was the main crop and was grown as a monoculture crop. When the sugar industry closed in St. Kitts and Nevis, the country would have moved away from this monoculture crop of sugarcane and towards a multi-cultivation approach where farmers cultivate multiple crops and practice rotations. Farmers carry on small-scale production of crops, including yams, sweet potato, vegetables, and peanuts. All farmers have also diversified into short-term or what we term cash crops and are seeking to achieve levels of self-sufficiency in items such as tomatoes, peppers, lettuce, pumpkin, etc. Farmers in St. Kitts and Nevis have, for a long time, engaged in practices that encourage and promote soil fertility. And of course, there can always be room for improvement in this regard, and we will continue to pursue accordingly. Soils are considered the primary source of our farmers, and most farmers routinely incorporate manure at planting, incorporate leguminous crops residues after the harvest of peanuts, for example. Our challenge at this point in time, though, is with the greenhouse farmers who are more prone towards the use of synthetic fertilizers. However, compost is a regular addition when used in soil mediums, noting that the soil organic matter content contributes to soil health and function by supporting crop performance and ecosystem services. Soils with higher soil organic matter content tend to be more productive and more capable of retaining water. They are also inhabited by more diverse microorganisms. Or loamy and sandy soil texture benefit highly by most of the protective and enhancing practices that we have introduced. And of course, this has led to soils being more fertile and the ability to withhold water. So those practices have been improving from time to time. Presently on the island, though, there are programs to reduce tillage, improve the diversity of our ecosystem, and in farm and environment, and reduce soil erosion. All soils are considered the primary resource of our farmers. And of course, the aim is not only to improve our farming practices, but to make sure this precious resource is also protected. If I were to look quickly at some of the causes of poor soil health in our country, of course, construction and infrastructural development heads the list. Overgrazing of animals, soil erosion, overplowing, over-fertilizing, inadequate crop rotation, slash and burn. Those practices have sought to or have led to some of the poor soil health that we've experienced. Technical officers use a variety of methods, though, to diagnose soil health here in St. Kitts and Nevis, some which are, for example, rapid soil tests, plant tissue analysis, and visual observation of nutrient deficiency symptoms. As I end, I must point out that we are indeed concerned about the level of chemical use in crop production, specifically as we are seeing more persons get into the sector. And as such, every effort will be made by the government of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis to introduce the necessary legislation to ensure that we are doing the sensible and smart things to ensure that we are being more sustainable and we are not creating any difficulty or future difficulties for our sustainability in our food systems and our nutrition security. I want to thank you very much and wish this initiative the full support and the blessings of the government and people of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Thank you so very much, Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries and Marine Resources of St. Kitts and Nevis. Thank you for your detailed report. And we will now listen to the Secretary of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries of Argentina, Honorable Julian Echazarreta. Thank you. Go ahead, Julian. Good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation. It is truly an honor to participate at such an important event, to launch this such initiative by IICA, Living Soils of the Americas, and that will allow us to leave a brief message on this day when we, the day before celebrating the World Soil Day. Our institute is also celebrating its 64th anniversary in such a difficult year, 2020, which, according to the United Nations, is a plant health year. Soil is one of the major components of natural assets in the Republic of Argentina. Beyond its undeniable productive potential, it plays a key role in sustainable development, since in the soil, we have the different ecosystems coming together. We recognize in soil a central role to face climate change due to its tremendous ability to sequester carbon. Over the years, the carbon content in the soils of our country has been dropping, particularly in the Pampas, where we have measured the presence of organic matter. However, over the last 10 years, we have seen a slight recovery in some areas as a result of the incorporation of conservation practices as direct planting and cover crops. The gap shown before as compared to the present measures lead us to increase these practices and others to recover the physical and chemical composition of our soils and avoid a growing deterioration due to acidity or loss of nutrients, among others. INTA has studies regarding the organic matter contents in the soil and its acidity that clearly show this process I was just mentioning. It is indispensable to move forward in the recarbonizing our soils, increasing adequate management practices that in turn can accompany the increase in production and reduction of production gaps. From the state, within our National Soils Plan, we have a collection of samples from more than 4,000 random samples. Together with the support of INTA, we would like to have analytical results of carbon so that we can develop the soil carbon content map that will be a starting point to measure future sequestration of this element, thus contributing to meet with our national contributions accepted in the United States Climate Summit. In the United Nations Climate Summit, we have more than 2,000 random samples of soil, and we continue to advance with our studies. Today, we are about to sign a contract with Fertilizar, a nonprofit organization, to take these samples to analyze nutrients and pH. This will allow us to better see the impact on the soil of different crop rotations that have been occurring in these same plots over the last 10 years. All this information will allow us to design and implement and monitor later public policies aimed at sustainable production and to participate actively with effective measures that will contribute to improve the conditions of such an important natural capital in the country and to mitigate, and if not reduce, the impact of climate change on our planet. Good agricultural practices with adequate rotation and cover crops will become massive, showing clearly our awareness about the need for action. We can also say that although at an early phase, possibility of the use of organic soils coming from livestock exploitation will certainly contribute to reincorporate nutrients and above all organic matter if these beneficial practices are widespread. We particularly trust that scientific and technological advances applied in the matter, such as biotechnology or genetic modification, can help contributing and can help to contribute. We have a management plan and are in articulation with the public and private sector and with specialized entities that focus their resources according to this plan. Private entities are committed to this effort, and we have a production sector that is at the forefront to bring together successfully its cost formula, its mode of production, and caring for the environment. That, therefore, is the key, so that by improving the quality of the essential element, which is the soil, we can successfully contribute to the current and urgent challenge of increasing productivity with inclusion and sustainability, so that through this soil resource, future generations can ensure their prosperity. We believe that this initiative, headed by Manuel Otero at IICA, and that has been supported by so many important nations and the ministers and secretaries present here, we would like to congratulate you all for it. We would like to join this effort. In favor of this important achievement we have to achieve amongst us all, so that our future generations have soil conditions that ensure their prosperity. So thank you very much. Warm greetings from Argentina. Thank you very much, Dr. Echezarreta, Secretary of Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries of Argentina. We appreciate these important words. And with this from Argentina, we will jump to Brazil. The Secretary of Innovation, Rural Development and Irrigation, Dr. Fernando Camargo, has the floor. Go ahead, please. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I would like to congratulate Dr. Manuel Otero and thank him for his effort. I would like to congratulate you for this event today commemorating the World Soils Day. I would like to congratulate you for this initiative and our guest speaker for his outstanding presentation. This is very clear for the Brazilian model. So for the event today, it is absolutely to talk about soils in Brazil. Brazil, as you all well know, is a major food exporter worldwide. We export more than 1 million people. However, in the 1970s, Brazil was a net food importer. All that revolution occurred thanks to technology. And today, we have the challenge of implementing and improving our production to, according to the FAO, increase about our production about 40% to address world demand of 10 million people in forthcoming years, in the next 30 years particularly. However, we need to do this in Brazil, ensuring sustainability and caring for the environment. And for that, Don Manuel Otero and other colleagues, we will work to recover our soils and improve our pasture lands. Brazil has about 70 million hectares of degraded pasture lands. We have a major project called ABC, Low Carbon Agriculture Plan, and this will be subsidized by government. This will be funded by government subsidies. We are already feeding 1 million people by recovering these degraded lands. So just imagine if we could improve our production without felling a single tree. That is our biggest challenge in agriculture in Brazil, which is very much in line with this thesis. The soil program launched yesterday aims at creating a single public platform regarding Brazilian soil knowledge. This not only applies to agriculture, but also relates to infrastructure, logistics, defense, and science and technology. We understand that a better understanding the soils in Brazil will certainly help us to enter the area of a 4.0 agriculture or even 5.0 agriculture. And for that, we are working to hopefully expecting to examine Brazilian soils in greater detail. This basically has been the platform that was precisely launched yesterday together with the University of Soils in Brazil. This is the information that will be made available on a website available open to all citizens worldwide, not only Brazil. So I would like to invite you as of now to access that platform. It has maps and very detailed studies we are undertaking regarding Brazilian soils. I would like to congratulate you for the initiative today and to celebrate the World Soil Day tomorrow. Thank you all very much for the invitation.
Muchas gracias, doctor Fernando Camargo, secretario de...
Thank you, Dr. Fernando Camargo, Secretary of Innovation, Rural Development, and Irrigation of Brazil. And now, as part of this event, on the launch of Living Soils in the Americas, we will listen to the Honorable Scott Hodgkins, Deputy Undersecretary, Research, Education, and Economics of the United States Department of Agriculture.
Thank you very much. Greetings, and thank you for the very kind introduction. Thank you as well, Director General Otero, for hosting this important event. It's my pleasure to join you all today, and as you know, the U.S. is a visible and passionate partner and supporter and member of IICA. Also, greetings to my colleague, Dr. Ratan Lal, and congratulations again, sir, on your very well-deserved World Food Prize Award. You have inspired generations of students and scientists in the past and continue to do so. Ministers, distinguished guests, and colleagues, we all know the reality that we face with world population growth, and I trust we all also know that in order to feed this growing population, we must sustainably intensify agriculture production with the technological advances of modern agriculture and environmental stewardship. Even as changes in land use, reduced natural resources, including fresh water and climate variability, threaten food security, there is great opportunity to address each of these challenges with innovation, all based in science. At the core of healthy agriculture is healthy soil. Agriculture, as part of this World Soil Food Day, is the reason we're all gathered, and we recognize the need for a healthy, well-functioning soil filled with high biological activity to help limit temperature rises, increase ag productivity, and enhance ecosystem services. But how do we double our current agriculture production to feed the nearly 10 billion mouths expected by 2050 while we sustain the natural resources that underpin the whole system? Innovation, that's how. The science agencies of USDA and the incredible land-grant university system are actively and collectively providing evidence-based research to address current and future challenges. Our recently launched USDA Science Blueprint outlines our needed capabilities and science priorities in 5 overarching program themes. All the themes are relevant to IICA, but 3 are directly applicable here. Sustainable ag intensification, doing more with less. Ag climate adaptation, to ensure that agriculture can adapt to whatever changes come. And of course, science policy leadership, to ensure that all decisions and all approaches are based on good science. Producers must stay ahead of the curve in the face of a changing climate and do it in ways that ensure both healthy soil and water are available and productive. Often categorized as regenerative agriculture practices, our work supports farming in ways that increases biodiversity, enriches soils, improves watersheds, and enhances ecosystems. I'm fond of the way one of my Agriculture Research Service colleagues described it as providing a skin to the soil. Soil health is indeed a priority across USDA, with a focus on using scientific knowledge and conservation programs to improve soil resiliency and increase soil carbon storage. Stakeholders are increasingly interested in determining the ability of soils to sequester carbon and ecosystem services, which could in turn help mitigate greenhouse gas emissions and contribute to global climate, that contribute presently to global climate change. This sequestered carbon also improves water infiltration, soil water holding capacity, resilience, productivity, and sustainability broadly. Farmers and ranchers have always been the best stewards of their land. With successful soil management, many producers have experienced significant increases in productivity by retaining earthworm populations and managing cover crops to improve biological activity and rich organic matter, among other benefits. While we do recognize that the physical characteristics of soils are not easily modified, we know the management of soil can affect the variability of crop growth. Cropping systems, fertilization, and irrigation practices can influence soil nutrient levels, pH, and salinity. It is important that we examine farming principles and practices because healthy, well-functioning soil plays a crucial role in the lives of plants, animals, and humans. But there are no 2 hectares that are the same. So we need to create a culture of experimentation on the farm so the stewards themselves can find the right formula for their land and their circumstance. Farmers and ranchers need to be citizen scientists to help keep our food and agricultural system strong and productive. The United States has a history of significantly growing agricultural output over the last 90 years and has never been selfish about making the tools and techniques available to all who would benefit. We've increased food and fiber production by over 400% while using nearly 10% less land with ever improving methods and technology. And we are not anywhere near the crest on that productivity curve. We are achieving this success with fewer resources by harnessing innovation and technology. Innovation enables an abundance versus a scarcity mentality with these challenges and will produce for all while also improving production capabilities for soils, water, and air. A balance of production and production capability is truly the key for the future. All of this is accomplished through embracing sustainable agriculture. There are three required elements to sustainable agriculture, however: economic, social, and environmental. First is economic viability. Farming is a business and must seek efficiency and productivity as any business would. Farmers and ranchers must have the opportunity to develop an economically viable enterprise, or it truly is not sustainable. Next, we must include social responsibility that works towards sustainably producing abundant, nutritious, and affordable food for all of their citizens. And finally, the environmental focus, conserving and protecting our natural resources so they can produce in perpetuity, in other words, production capability. These three components are critical and must be factored to achieve true sustainability. This is the lens upon which we need to evaluate ag policy, build ag technology, and focus our research. In the face of emerging agricultural challenges and opportunities, USDA launched the Agriculture Innovation Agenda for the United States, which aims to increase production and productivity by 40% while cutting the environmental footprint of US agriculture in half by 2050. These are big, bold goals, but they're achievable if formulated responsibly and in a way that enlists the entire innovation ecosystem, public and private sector. The policy has three interdependent components: research and innovation, program adoption to ensure these tools are actually utilized, and output and metrics to measure the progress and expected outcomes to have a continuous feedback loop. The United States whole of society approach to stimulate open innovation enables American farmers and ranchers to continually produce more with fewer resources. The progress made this past century is proof that sustainable intensification of agriculture is indeed possible, and it must be successful in the future. The U.S. Ag Innovation Strategy sets discovery goals that are both incremental and transformational, that are targets for the innovation community to engage and advance to new methods and technologies to reach the goals. We've seen with the current generation of biotechnology that technology can also create the opportunity for soil health and conservation. Herbicide-tolerant crops, for example, enable farmers to reduce or eliminate the need for tillage. The United States now sees over 70% of our hectares utilize reduced or no-till approaches, whereas the EU, where biotechnology is not used, has less than 30% adoption of these important soil health methods. Moreover, these technologies, which greatly reduce complexity in farming, can be adapted for small landholders in food insecure countries, which is critical when the supply chains are fragile or poorly developed with other technologies and methods. Modern agricultural production tools, including pesticides, fertilizers, veterinary products, and as noted, genetic enhancement, allow farmers and ranchers to manage their production for higher yields, simultaneously strengthening their production capability. Technology based in science will be the only way we can address the impacts to agriculture from a changing climate and a growing population. The sooner we embrace that reality, the sooner we can conserve more habitat to enhance conservation and biodiversity locally and globally. The US, including the USDA, are all in with the critical importance of soil health and understand the role it will play with our goals for both production and production capability. I again thank you for the opportunity to participate on behalf of Secretary Perdue and myself. Thank you again.
Muy bien, muchas gracias por este panorama, por estas...
Thank you for your remarks to Mr. Scott Hodgkins, Deputy Undersecretary, Research, Education, and Economics of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And now we will listen to Mr. Javier Gracia Garza. He is the Special Advisor for Agriculture and Climate Change of the Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada.
Thank you. Ministers, heads of delegations, representatives of international organizations, honored guests, I'm honored to speak to you on behalf of Canada's Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food, the Honorable Marie-Claude Bibeau. Unfortunately, the Minister could not be here today, but please accept her best wishes. I would like to thank Dr. Otero and IICA and Professor Bretan Land for this invitation. As we celebrate the World Soil Day, I would like to thank IICA and congratulate for the launching of this initiative. You are showing leadership on a key challenge facing our planet: the urgent need to preserve and care for our soils while meeting the challenges of climate change and food security. Canada recognizes the vital contribution of ecosystem services, including healthy and productive soils, and is committed to helping the agriculture sector adjust to climate change, conserve biodiversity, and improve sustainability. And this includes improving soil health and conservation. Le Canada reconnaît les services écosystémiques essentiels fournis par des sols sains et productifs et s'est engagé à aider les secteurs agricoles à s'adapter au changement climatique, à conserver la biodiversité et à améliorer la durabilité environnementale, y compris en améliorant la santé de la conservation des sols. Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada has been involved in research to improve soil health since the 1930s and has conducted and funded research to develop innovation, beneficial management practices, and technologies that can sequester carbon into the soil, essentially restoring soil health and providing climate change mitigation benefits. We also collect and use data to develop and provide valuable soil information products. Part of the work of our sustainability metrics team is to maintain a suite of soil-related agroecosystem indicators, such as the soil organic matter, soil salinity, and soil erosion. These indicators provide national estimates of important aspects of soil health. Recent research efforts are being focused on soil fingerprinting and on the soil microbiome, with the goal to develop even more robust and precise indicators of soil health. In addition, the Climate Soil Information Service is an authoritative source of soil data and land resources information for Canada. This includes the National Soil Database of Soil and Landscape Information. We have targeted significant investments on science and innovation to conserve soil resources, reduce soil degradation, and restore soil health, for the purpose of improving productivity and developing soil management practices that will sequester carbon in agricultural soils to help address climate change. These efforts have paid off. For example, beginning in the 1980s, Canadian farmers led the world in adopting conservation tillage technology. This innovative practice helped our farmers keep carbon in the soil, reduce erosion, and cut their costs for labor, machinery, and other inputs. Today, almost 50 million acres in Canada are farmed under conservation tillage. As a result, agricultural soils stored close to 7 megaton carbon in 2017, offsetting approximately 10% of all of Canada's agriculture emissions. Further gains in storing carbon in soils could be made through more adoption of innovative tools and technologies, such as precision agriculture, biotechnology, and artificial intelligence, as well as adopting other agricultural practices, such as the use of cover crops, agroforestry, the establishment of shelter belts and riparian buffers, and improving the management of our Canadian grasslands. Canada welcomes the growing importance of soil and soil health on the international agenda. There are connections with Canada's activities to strengthen the scientific base of activities and methods for monitoring, assessing, and addressing climate change, biodiversity loss, and land degradation. Le Canada voit d'un bon œil l'importance croissante des sols et les problèmes de santé des sols à l'ordre du jour sur la scène internationale. Il existe des liens avec les activités du Canada visant à renforcer la base scientifique des activités et des méthodes de surveillance, d'évaluation et de lutte contre les changements climatiques, la perte de la biodiversité et la dégradation des terres. Canada collaborates internationally on a number of initiatives dedicated to taking action on climate change, carbon sequestration, and soil health, notably the United Nations Global Soil Partnership, the Global Research Alliance on Agriculture, Greenhouse Gas Emissions, and the Cap per Mille initiative on soils for food security and climate. These collaborative efforts help advance our joint climate change research agenda, which include enhancing carbon sequestration in agricultural soils, mitigating greenhouse gas emissions from cropping systems, and developing predictive GHG and carbon models at a regional, national, and global scale. Much work has been done to protect our soils, but much more remains to be done. We need to grow more food to feed the growing global population. And we must do so using agricultural practices that conserve soil health and restore degraded soils. If we are to succeed, we will need to rely heavily on innovation. We need to get new technologies and practices into the hands of farmers as quickly as possible. Si nous voulons réussir, nous devrons compter fortement sur l'innovation. Nous devons mettre les nouvelles technologies et pratiques entre les mains des agriculteurs et le plus rapidement possible. The farmer's field is where innovation is activated, enhancing soil health, sequestering carbon, and producing more food. To do this, we need to turn the farmer's field into centers of innovation. This is the goal of Canada's agroecosystem living laboratories. Living laboratories are an open approach to innovation. It engages all partners, including farmers, researchers, governments, non-government organizations, and Canada's Indigenous communities to co-develop innovative solutions that make sense in the real world. To date, Canada has established 2 living laboratories, with more in the planning stages. These sites will be powerful accelerators for the development and adoption of agri-environmental practices and technologies that will improve soil health and build resilient agricultural systems. Encore une fois, merci Dr. Otero et Professeur Lal d'avoir convoqué cette réunion aujourd'hui. Una vez más, gracias, Dr. Otero y Professor Lal, por haber convocado esta reunión.
Once again,
Canada will remain
Otero
open
and
to
Dr. Lal
collaborate with
for
IICA on this and other
inviting
issues.
us to this event.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much to Mr. Javier Gracia Garza, Special Advisor for Agriculture and Climate Change of Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada. And now we will listen to the Director of Science and Agricultural Technology of the Secretary of Agriculture and Livestock of Honduras, Mr. Alejandro Murillo. Thank you, Dr. Otero, and all the participants. Special greetings to Dr. Rattenlau, an expert on soil. As part of this event, the Association of Soil Experts of Honduras held a meeting, is in a meeting yesterday. It's about to conclude today. And one of the topics that is being addressed is soil mapping. To conduct a new soil mapping effort after the ETA hurricane, where we were just beginning to recovery, and then we were struck by the Iota hurricane, and that increased even more our losses. But our losses still to be quantified. I think we need to start from scratch once again and look for production alternatives in the most affected areas. Other ministers have mentioned monocultures, which were the most affected. For example, sugarcane, banana. There were significant losses with those crops, and also oil palm and other crops. So I would like to thank Mr. Mauricio Guevara, Minister of Agriculture and Livestock, who gave me the responsibility to make these remarks at this event. We have been working very closely with ICA. This year, we held an event on cereal production, especially after the production matrix was changed for beans. We are heavily dependent on beans as a main source of protein. And because of the geographical location of Honduras, we only have 2 seasons. This is our dry season from November to May or June, and from June to the end of October is a rainy season. So we need to find ways to accommodate our production of maize, beans, rice, and other crops in this short uh, dry season. In this short season, uh, beans have been planted in the post-harvest season, but we changed that this year because we had been experiencing a very dry season last year and the year before. And so we changed our production matrix to begin planting at the beginning of the year. And this was a very important decision. It was done with the agreement of ICA. And as the result of all this, we were able to have a good crop, a good harvest. We have enough cereal in stock. And we are trying to find solutions to succeed in our efforts. Something that we are looking into together with ICA is that we have 7 experimental stations under the direction of the Science and Technology Department. And we want to develop profitable institutions with profitable business plans so that farmers that live close to these experimental stations can acquire knowledge and training to understand the need of changing some practices, such as the use of compost and more sustainable practices that will help them improve or enhance productivity in their fields. We are mapping the soil with the support of some institutions. For example, with the cocoa, we had made significant progress, but after what happened, we need to start from scratch once again. And we are also focusing on the planting of fortified crops. For example, yam, cassava, which are enriched with beta carotene, maize that is fortified with zinc. This is important in light of the pandemic. Beans is fortified with iron, and as well as other crops that will enable us to produce a healthier to produce healthier foods. In livestock production, I was listening to my colleague from Costa Rica. Here we're working with llamas. to reduce the GHG emissions and have a more sustainable systems. We also want to change in the livestock sector the use of breeds that are not the best fitted for the tropics or the most suitable for the tropics. We are also working on importing breeds, some breeds from Brazil, which have a greater or better potential for our systems. Also, we're trying to use the life zones with resilient crops. We are working very heavily with the water harvests. We receive very little rainwater, so we need to harvest water in order to have longer production periods in the country. Another important thing is to strengthen our marketing systems to make them more fair for smallholder farmers or producers so that they can have more profits, more income. We're working with them to increase the value added of their production. Thank you for allowing me to participate in this event, and I wish you a very good day.
Thank you, Mr. Murillo, Director of Science and Agricultural Technology of the Secretariat of Agriculture and Livestock of Honduras. I offer the floor now to Ms. Camila Fernandez, Cabinet Advisor of the Ministry of Agriculture of Chile. Camila, please. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. It is a bit later in Chile, but on behalf of the Minister Antonio Wocard, who is unable to join you, he is currently traveling throughout Chile, but I would like to thank you for such an important event for him and for the ministry. We have been working very hard in valuing the importance of soil, of fertile living sources, soils. I thank Dr. Manuel Otero, and it is a privilege to count on the presence of Mr. Ratan Lal. I reiterate what has already been said. It is very recomforting to listen to so many countries of the Americas talking about the importance of living soils and that agriculture is going to be a solution to many of the challenges we face today. We have different goals in the long term. We need to achieve a reduction of a temperature, and we have the sustainable development goals, and we have to ensure food security, reduce poverty, poor nutrition, but even so, improve our relationship with nature at the same time. We need to regenerate it and ensure it can provide us all the food stuff we need to meet our goals. The soil is the beginning of life. This is where everything comes from, and oftentimes we forget that we need to take care of it. We, as ministry, are working to highlight the importance of soil health. We want to improve our relationship with nature. Oftentimes, out of sheer ignorance or lack of sciences, we have been using poor practices. Today, we have to revert that. We have to regenerate and repair our damage. Some of our commitments that we have been working on in this administration is to add the circular economy practices to close all nature cycles, increase the percentage of hectares uncovered, and avoid soil degradation. We have more than 12 years of drought, which has worsened the situation. Unfortunately, we are working very hard with the academia and private sector in collaboration agreements to change our practices and thus improve education and rural outreach to small farmers and rural population. We are working on soil conservation practices, zero tillage, precision agriculture, agriculture 4.0. There are multiple challenges. We are working very hard with the Ministry of Science also so that they can help us chart the map. We cannot continue to worsen the situation. With the COVID-19 pandemic, we are very vulnerable and we cannot always guarantee food security. If we do not make the right decisions, things can be worse. Thank you very much for the invitation and for the opportunity to share some words on behalf of Chile. I wish you all the best of success for the rest of the day. Thank you. Thank you, Engineer Camila Fernandez, Cabinet Advisor in Climate Change and Forestry Resources of Minagri, Republic of Chile. Allow me now to invite you all to see a very short video regarding the event. Before that, just a few words, perhaps summarizing what has been said, not in concept, but instead in words. As if we were working with artificial intelligence to measure algorithms. The words in common, all presentations today we have heard would be, the outstanding ones are conservation, protection, science, awareness, care, cooperation, productivity, inclusion, sustainability, care, and innovation. I believe that is the best summary of everything that has been said so far. And after such a difficult year with such tribulations, such anguish, such concern we have been experiencing, perhaps it is worth making a summary with these words precisely to see how this Living Soils of the Americas initiative is one that can fundamentally take hope to all corners of the hemisphere. Now, a brief video regarding this subject matter and that of living soils.
Agriculture neglecting is a serious mistake. We must respect farmers, we must respect agricultural professionals, and we must encourage the youngest and the brightest and the most brilliant people coming to agriculture profession.
La salud del suelo es también la salud de todo lo que hay sobre él. De las personas, los animales y el medio ambiente. En una interconexión vital. La salud del suelo es nuestra salud. Los nutrientes, las condiciones físicas y químicas y las propiedades biológicas del suelo influyen en la calidad nutricional de cualquier cultivo que se convierta en alimento. Cuando se consumen productos cultivados en suelos degradados, nuestra comida puede ser cualitativamente más pobre. La salud del suelo influye también en la calidad del agua y del aire. Así, la salud de nuestros suelos se refleja en la salud de nuestras ciudades. Si la salud del suelo se deteriora, todos nos vemos perjudicados. Con estas premisas, y por la relevancia de los suelos como sumideros de carbono, y como factor crítico para el desarrollo de cultivos y la cría de animales, el Instituto Interamericano de Cooperación para la Agricultura, IICA, lanza la iniciativa hemisférica Suelos Vivos de las Américas. El punto de partida revela una realidad preocupante. En América Latina y el Caribe, la degradación afecta alrededor de un 50% de los suelos, pero en algunos países se encuentra por encima del 60%. La desertificación y la salinización son problemas serios en la región. La iniciativa apunta a crear políticas, prácticas de manejo de tierras e incentivos para transformar los sistemas agrícolas en ecosistemas que acumulen más carbono en los suelos. Suelos Vivos de las Américas es fruto de una alianza entre el IICA y el Centro de Manejo y Secuestro de Carbono de la Universidad Estatal de Ohio, que dirige el profesor Ratan Lal. Premio Mundial de la Alimentación 2020, co-ganador del Nobel de la Paz y embajador de buena voluntad del IICA, Ratan Lal es considerado el máximo experto global en ciencias del suelo. Ratan Lal y el IICA, el organismo especializado para el desarrollo agropecuario y rural de las Américas, actuarán articulando esfuerzos y capacidades para ofrecer soluciones a la degradación de los suelos en la región.
Proteger a los suelos es trabajar en los temas de mitigación y adaptación al cambio climático, es trabajar en la rentabilidad de los productores y sobre todo de los pequeños productores, es trabajar con un enfoque de economía circular, y eso es lo que nos entusiasma, lo que nos compromete y lo que nos motiva como IICA.
Thank you, thank you. And now we will proceed to sign the General Technical Cooperation Agreement between IICA and the Ohio State University, the College of Food, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences, and the Carbon Management and Sequestration Center. This is an agreement, the objective of which is precisely to develop this initiative, Living Soils of the Americas. And this lay a bridge between sciences, public policies, and development for soil restoration. So we would like to invite to the signature of this technical cooperation agreement, we would like to invite the president of the Ohio State University, Ms. Christina Johnson, the vice president for agricultural administration and dean of the College of Food, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences, Ketan Tress, and Dr. Manuel Lotero, Director General of IICA.
La firma del acuerdo.
This is the signing of the cooperation agreement that will kick off this Living Soils of the Americas initiative. Immediately after the signature, we will offer the floor for remarks by special guests and representatives of international funding agency representatives, as well as representatives of the private sector. Here we can see the agreement signed between IICA and Ohio State University to develop this hemispheric initiative, Living Soils of the Americas. Very well, thank you very much. We will begin the comments by the Vice President of Sustainable Development of CAF, Mr. Julian Suarez Villosi. Go ahead, please. Welcome. Thank you, Guido. Allow me to begin by expressing a special appreciation to IICA, Dr. Manuel Lotero, its Director General, Gabriel Rodriguez, whom with this year we have worked particularly this year to explore common spaces to strengthen cooperation between IICA and CAF, the Latin American Development Bank, as well as greet Ratan Lal and the authorities of the different countries, colleagues from the international community, development, banking, academia, and others that are with us today. Allow me to briefly acknowledge the willingness of IICA to favor agricultural development that is sustainable and for favoring and fellow rural well-being through technical international cooperation. In this framework, I would like to highlight his determination to innovate permanently and for calling upon all relevant actors that may contribute something in such outstanding matters for sustainable development, as is the case of this significant initiative, the Living Soils of the Americas platform. Allow me to say that the growth of economies in Latin America and the Caribbean as to paths of resilience to carbon, to climate change, and the road towards other efforts is part of the biodiversity and natural capital agenda, an agenda of climate change based on which we support each of the sectoral initiatives that are propitiated within CAF to mitigate the effects of climate change in the region. Aside from using renewable sources, sustainable transportation, and reforestation, absorption of carbon by ecosystems and soils through sustainable agricultural practices are relevant action and necessary actions for our different countries. And this is not just an opportunity. There is really no alternative with our sustainable development agenda. Sustainable agriculture has always been fundamental for food security. This is nothing new, but it is particularly relevant at this point in time in the history of humanity. It helps protect ecosystems, avoids the degradation of natural resources, and definitively contributes to achieving the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. At CAF, we are deeply convinced about the relevance, the strategic relevance of initiatives like the ones presented today, and therefore, you will always find in us an ally, a partner to support you. So I would like to briefly share two different projects and programs we are supporting within CAF, where I clearly see commonalities with the proposal being proposed in Living Soils. The first regards a green funding program for local financial institutions that aims at reducing greenhouse gases in Latin America at equivalent to 10.7 million tons of carbon dioxide through climate change projects that are developed and funded locally by micro SMEs from 4 different countries of the region in the areas of renewable energy, energy efficiency, and land use. This program was recently approved at the last meeting of the Board of Directors of the Climate Green Fund, and that CAF therefore can make available today to these eligible local financial institutions of the 4 countries of the region: Ecuador, Paraguay, Panama, and now in Colombia. These are reimbursable funds, $145 million total, where the Climate Green Fund contributes $95 million in funding, CAF $50 million more as loans. And additionally, the Climate Green Fund provides non-reimbursable funds for technical cooperation worth $5 million that are, and with a donation of CAF for $200,000 to provide technical assistance to the program. This program particularly will provide funding for investments in technologies for sustainable land use in up to $1 million per project, channeled through the local financial institutions that are the intermediaries and allies of partners of CAF. And investments in sustainable land use are estimated to reduce in 22 million hectares under sustainable management, reducing 37,000 tons of carbon equivalent over every year. And the life cycle of the investment, estimated in 20 years, we will have reduced 1.3 million tons carbon equivalent thanks to the implementation of these activities. Additionally, the program will also have other activities focused on awareness and sustainability, generating an appropriate environment to develop mitigation projects, strength, capacity building, and to provide technical support to micro, small, and medium enterprises, beneficiaries of this initiative, as well as local and in financial institutions and intermediaries. And my second program is one of low carbon emissions and resilient to climate change in Colombia. That is a very interesting program that we are carrying forward together with the Green Climate Fund. And we're together with the Rural Development and Ministry of Agriculture, with Biodiversity and 8 associations of Colombian producers, working together to reduce economic losses as a result of climate change and agricultural production by increasing their resilience to extreme weather events and climate change, which continues to grow in the region. Beneficiaries of this initiative shall be 100,000 producers in 8 areas that have been prioritized by the national government of Colombia, among which are rice, maize, dairy, and others. This initiative in climate change will focus on sequestering and retaining carbon in soil, contributing to the restoration of soils in those areas that I mentioned, degraded soils. To structure the project, we have non-reimbursable funds from the Green Climate Fund, and once the studies are carried out, this will have an approximate cost of $80 million distributed between credit and donations that will count on funds from CAF and the Green Climate Fund and a private sector that can contribute to this. And with this, I end. There are different projects where different actors focus around a common goal, showing the interest of the countries of the region to contribute to ever more sustainable management of the soils. And with this, I end. Once again, thank you very much. Congratulations to IICA for this initiative, and to Dr. Ratan Lal. Thank you, Julian Suarez, Vice President of Sustainable Development of CAF. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for your warm words. We will now hear Michael Morris, lead agriculture economist and currently acting practice manager of the Agriculture and Food Global Practice World Bank. Go ahead, Mr. Morris.
Michael.
Can you hear me now?
Ahora sí.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Ratan Lal, Dr. Manuel Otero, Your Excellencies, Ministers and Secretaries of Agriculture, colleagues and friends, it's my great pleasure to be able to represent the World Bank Group at this event today. Let me begin by conveying greetings on the part of Carlos Felipe Jaramillo, the World Bank Vice President for Latin America and the Caribbean region, who unfortunately is not able to be with us due to a previous commitment. Mr. Jaramillo has asked me to communicate that he shares the view that soils are a valuable resource that merits increased attention as part of the regional development agenda. He commends IICA for launching the Living Soils in the Americas initiative, along with the Ohio State University, with the objective of raising awareness of the need to strengthen good soil management practices as the basis for agricultural development strategies aimed at overcoming climate challenges. At the World Bank, we are committed to action on climate change, including in the agriculture sector. In that context, investments that promote healthier and more sustainable soils offer an important low-hanging option. Soils represent the single most significant natural capital stock for ensuring food, water, and energy security, while building resilience to climate change and the associated shocks. Not always appreciated by the development community is that soil nutrient cycling accounts for a very large share of all ecosystem services, roughly 1/2, according to our calculations. So investing in soils represents a great way to achieve the triple win of increased productivity, enhanced resilience, and reduced emissions. The World Bank is working through two channels to make agriculture climate smart. First, by supporting policy reforms, and second, by financing investments along with technical assistance. With respect to policy reforms, a recent World Bank study covering more than 50 countries worldwide found that governments in those countries are spending more than $500 billion a year to support agricultural producers. Most of that support, roughly 85%, is provided in the form of subsidies, either direct subsidies to promote production or indirect subsidies provided in the form of price support for outputs. These policies are highly distortionary because they create disincentives for producers to behave in ways that are sustainable and climate friendly. Repurposing this $500 billion represents an immense opportunity to redirect public support for sustainable intensification, including by encouraging investment in healthy soils. In parallel to promoting the repurposing of public spending, the World Bank is also trying to walk the talk by scaling up the financing we provide in support of climate smart agriculture. Last year, 50% of the $20 billion World Bank agriculture portfolio was devoted to activities that generate climate change adaptation co-benefits or climate change mitigation co-benefits. Worldwide, our goal by 2025 is to reach at least 50 countries and 100 million farmers with climate smart technologies and recarbonization approaches to speed the emergence of a more productive and climate resilient agriculture. The LAC region plays an important role in the World Bank's agricultural portfolio because producers in LAC have been at the forefront in implementing many innovative technologies that have later spread to other parts of the world, including technologies for improving and conserving soils. And because producers in LAC are leading the way in so many areas and serving as an example for the rest of the world, the Living Soils for America initiative can potentially have an impact that will extend far beyond the region. In closing, let me again congratulate IICA for taking the initiative to launch this important initiative, which we hope will bring further attention to a critical area of work that can play a vital role in driving the transformation of agriculture to which we all aspire. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias al economista.
Thank you, lead agriculture economist, World Bank, and acting practice manager of agriculture and food global practice, Michael Morris. So we will now hear the words of the head of the Environment and Rural Development Division of the Inter-American Development Bank, Dr. Pedro Martel. Hello, good afternoon, good morning. Thank you for the invitation. It is an honor for me to join you. Greetings, Manuel Otero, and ministers and representatives of the different countries. Professor Lal, thank you very much for your presentation, and I congratulate you for the award granted this year. Allow me to take advantage and congratulate you for the initiative being launched today. Soils are extremely valuable natural resources, as has been said throughout the day. It is essential for life in general. I very much enjoyed what Dr. Lau said in this sense. And not only did he include it in his presentation, but also in the first paper produced. And throughout all his lifetime. On the dialogue agenda, very little attention has been paid to soils. And it has been thanks to work by scientists like Dr. Lal that we have recovered recognition of the importance of such a resource, particularly analyzing and revaluing the importance of soil health based on rigorous scientific knowledge. And this is important because we are saying that science is moving forward the agenda of dialogue and policy that we, multilateral funding institutions, are in charge of supporting. And in this sense, I would like to repeat. I might repeat what has been said about highlighting the importance of biodiversity and climate role and the role of soils in this sense. A good part of the great loss of biodiversity the world faces today occurs in soils. Unfortunately, that loss is not visible. It is in fact invisible for most people. So much biodiversity in soils has been lost. These are microorganisms, fungi, and all the wonders that occur in soils. And that importance is highlighted in the relevance of the work done by the center headed by Dr. Lal. Soils offer a very valuable opportunity to sequester carbon and contribute crucially to mitigate climate change. It is calculated that an annual increase of 0.04% of carbon sequestered in relative terms, and I mean by this, that this will basically offset greenhouse gases, something mentioned by many of the ministers. It made echo in me. Yes, we could say this is all very interesting work, very relevant in scientific terms, but how about the profitability and the means of living of these growers? We can see the work done in this area showing that this activity is profitable. Sequester carbon, manage soil. This is profitable. Increasing in carbon sequestered by soils can be done through adequate soil management. Introducing technological changes in agricultural practices, as the colleagues have already mentioned, like the World Bank and CAP, not necessarily means giving up productive and sustainable, profitable agriculture. And this is very important. I believe this is part of the agenda that the ministers highlighted today. Certainly, these enhanced practices can help us rebuild soils and increase carbon sequestration, and at the same time produce worthy income for growers. So in this sense, soil degradation is important to the work we do at the Bank for Latin America. The bank recognizes the importance of working on this area. So much so that we are advancing in a very proactive manner to include specific indicators in projects we fund that relate to the impact of these projects on the quality and health of soils. And I believe the initiative being developed is going to be very helpful. And I recognize the leadership of IICA and Ohio State University in taking this knowledge to the forefront so that we can use it then in our own projects and add measurable indicators regarding the progress we can make in that area. And then I would also like to recognize that the bank in its recent review of corporate indicators has included a corporate indicator on changes in land use and cover. And in this area, it is very important and very timely to see the work being done by IICA together with the Ohio State Center, because this will allow us to move forward with knowledge and include it in our own measurements. And in this sense, I do not want to elaborate on the type of projects we undertake, but just as our colleagues, the World Bank, just as the World Bank and CAF, we have products and projects that work directly with growers and producers to help move forward with the changes that we are working on in the Central American region. This year, we signed a program for decarbonization of Costa Rica, fostering, for example, the use of hanamas that the Minister of Agriculture of Costa Rica mentioned. We are fully committed to this work. We are very aware that yet there is much more to be done, and we have to double our efforts. That is why we opened this initiative of IICA and Ohio State University with our arms open, and we are willing to collaborate. We reiterate that. Once again, thank you for the opportunity and congratulations for the initiative.
Thank you to Mr. Pedro Martel, Head of the Environment, Rural Development and Disaster Risk Management Division of the Inter-American Development Bank. And now we will listen to Josna Pure, Director of the Environment, Climate, Nutrition, Gender, and Social Inclusion Division of the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD.
Thank you very much, Dr. Manuel Otero, Professor Ratan Lal, Honorable Ministers, Heads of Delegations, representatives of international organizations, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here today representing President Hugmo, who unfortunately could not be here today, but does send his greetings to all of you. IFAD, or FIDA, as we are known in Latin America, is an international financial institution and a specialized United Nations agency based in Rome that invests in rural people, empowering them to increase their food security, improve the nutrition of their families, and increasing their incomes, and is a longtime partner of IICA. IFAD-supported projects have shown that with improved natural resource management, rebuilding soil nutrients, and its production supporting services, combined with access to technical assistance and markets, rural people can lift themselves out of poverty. Ladies and gentlemen, there are more organisms in 1 gram of healthy soil than there are people on Earth. Healthy living soils are the basis of our food systems. They also, very importantly for IFAD, but also globally for the world, serve as important carbon sinks containing 80% of the world's terrestrial carbon. Today, soils have, however, lost 50 to 70% of the carbon they once held, contributing to about 1/4 of all man-made global greenhouse gas emissions that are warming the planet. For IFAD's target populations that are rural smallholders, soils are their lifeblood. Having access to land, caring for it, and producing food for their families, communities, and countries is the heart of their livelihoods. Ladies and gentlemen, Chairperson, IFAD uses an evidence-based approach in its work. In a recent study that put together 153 peer-reviewed published studies that measured soil health for 2 or more organic treatments, it was found that combinations of organic amendments such as compost, manures, vermicompost improved soil health metrics compared to when applied alone. Including a perennial crop like alfalfa, consistently improved soil carbon, nitrogen, and aggregate stability. However, despite the importance for climate change mitigation and adaptation, the study also found that the effect of practices on aggregate stability and water dynamics were understudied across the world, especially when compared with other soil health metrics. In Latin America, the problem with respect to soils and their degradation is amplified further due to large-scale deforestation resulting from pressure to expand the agricultural frontier. Chairperson, IFAD's work throughout the Latin America and Caribbean region is the second largest of its portfolios. In Latin America, IFAD is proud to ensure that practices such as agroforestry, conservation agriculture, zero tillage, organic farming, and agroecology are fully incorporated across its portfolio of investments that consists of both grants and loans. In Northeast Brazil, where desertification plagues 55% of the territory, IFAD is proud to be launching the implementation of its largest ever project in the region, co-financed by IFAD, the Green Climate Fund, and the Brazilian Development Bank, BNDES, fully focused on supporting smallholders to increase their resilience by restoring their productive land. Overall, IFAD investments in LAC total $1.8 billion, of which approximately $700 million is from IFAD, and it has a total co-financing of $1.1 billion. of which actually 760 million is from domestic partners. In another initiative, the Planting Climate Resilience Project, the program is likely to strengthen and expand climate-resilient productive models and seed banks while improving availability of suppliers, valuing the role of women, and building knowledge networks of farmers practicing agriculture adapted to the current and expected climate conditions. In yet another initiative, productive development and capacity building in Brazil, one of the outcomes of the project was the uptake of environment-friendly and climate-resilient agricultural practices. The project has resulted in more natural fertilizer use and techniques such as intercropping. Productive investments coupled with technical support has facilitated a forage storage strategy that is likely to reduce pressure on native vegetation, particularly during the dry season. Overall, our initiatives aim to increase soil moisture retention and recharge, as well as increase organic matter in soil to ensure a symbiotic relationship between soils and smallholder farmer livelihoods. They're expected to bring about a higher diversity and availability in food, diversity of income streams that can buffer against climate and market shocks, as well as induce a net farm output, yield income stability, increase availability of food and income opportunities, while reducing carbon emissions and improving ecosystem services. In preparation for the UN Food Systems Summit of 2021, IFAD is the UN anchor organization leading Action Track 4, which focuses on advancing equitable livelihoods. However, equality cannot exist without proper land management, which requires ensuring healthy soils that are accessible for all, especially the most vulnerable, including women, youth, and indigenous peoples. As an institution focused on rural livelihoods, IFAD is honored to join the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture's celebration of World Soils Day and the launching of the Living Soils in the Americas initiative. The relationship between IICA and IFAD is long-lasting and fruitful, and we look forward to a continued partnership in this highly relevant program. Thank you.
Muchas gracias a la señora.
Thank you to Ms. Jyotsna Puri, Director of the Environment, Climate, Nutrition, Gender, and Social Inclusion Division of the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD. Now we will listen to representatives from the private sector, beginning with Natasha Santos. She is Vice President of Bayer AG.
Hello, greetings from Germany. Thank you for today, Dr. Lau and IICA, Your Excellencies, representatives of international organizations, special guests. Back in 2014, when the United Nations endorsed the world's first ever World Soil Day, it did so for an important reason: to advocate for more sustainable management of soil resources worldwide. There was and remains a real risk that the value we are all extracting from soil is becoming greater than the value that we are putting in. So how can we reverse this trend? Improvements to the health of soil are critical for sustainable agriculture. That's why Bayer applauds the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture, IICA, and the Carbon Management and Sequestration Center of the Ohio State University for the leadership and the Living Soils in the Americas initiative. The Americas have long demonstrated leadership in sustainable agriculture, and with this new initiative, it is fantastic to see you leading the world in conserving and improving soil quality. But from a private sector point of view, what Bayer and the private sector can do to support these initiatives? Judicial soil management is important for realizing the UN Sustainability Goal 2, which aims to end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition, promoting sustainable agriculture. This is reflected in the action point 2.4, which states by 2030, ensure sustainable food production systems and implement resilient agriculture practices that increase productivity and production and that progressively improve land and soil quality. To achieve food security is a challenge. To maintain it is a bigger one, and soil health plays a critical role in both. Professor Ratan Lal compares soil to a bank account. He says it is important we never take out more value than we put in. It is an effective analogy, but part of running a successful bank account is budgeting and balancing your incomings with your outgoings. 50% of the land on Earth is used for agriculture, representing an enormous opportunity to find ways to utilize land, not just for food production, but as a carbon sink. To achieve this, we must place farmers at the center of the conservation around emissions reduction and carbon sequestration on their farms. In other words, we must give farmers the knowledge and the tools to successfully manage their soil bank accounts. To scale up carbon sequestration practices, farmers need our support. Everyone from the private sector, NGOs, academics, policymakers, researchers, development organizations, we all have a role to play in helping farmers access the knowledge and tools they need to implement more sustainable farming practices that help repair and maintain soil ecosystem. To effectively implement modern sustainable farming methods such as reduced tilling and cover cropping, farmers need access to tools and support globally. At Bayer, we are committed to partnering with farmers, the food value chain, and other key stakeholders to develop new approaches that move us towards a carbon zero future for agriculture. In July 2020, this year, we began rewarding farmers for generating carbon credits by adopting climate smart practices. Through Bayer Carbon Initiative, we are working with 1,200 farmers in the US and Brazil, covering a total of 450,000 acres, and our ambition is to expand this around the world. The project encouraged farmers to adopt agronomic practices new to them, such as no-till farming and the use of cover crops to reduce the carbon footprints and greenhouse gas emissions. It recognized the pivotal role that growers and their land can play in creating a lasting positive environmental impact. And it's one of several similar initiatives that Bayer is keen to roll out across the globe. Farmers are passionate environmentalists and stewards of the lands they farm. If we give them a credible opportunity to lessen their impact on soil, they will surely take it. We need to reward them for implementing sustainable farming techniques in the same way they are rewarded for food and fiber production. Then we can begin to make a real difference. It will take, like we are doing today, strong partnerships, a commitment to innovation, common goal of a sustainable future to achieve real impacts and scale. So today I ask all of your support and collaboration. I ask all of us to engage in this initiative, on these positive initiatives, and I ask your help in achieving more sustainable management of soil resource worldwide. For sure, Bayer is committed to do so. Thank you for your time today. Thank you.
Muchas gracias. Agradecemos la presencia y la palabra.
We thank the Vice President, the remarks of Vice President of Bayer, Ms. Natasha Santon, and now we will listen to Jose Antonio Isambert, Business Sustainability Head, Syngenta, Latin America North.
Greetings from Colombia, and thank you, Dr. Manuel Otero, Jorge Wertheim, and Chris Lloyd for this invitation. We in Syngenta salute this marvelous initiative, and of course, we want to recognize and congratulate the IICA for driving this initiative forward. And on the other hand, also, we would like to recognize Laureate Dr. Ratan Lal for stepping up on behalf of the science and the technology for meeting one of the greatest challenges that agriculture and the food production in the world is facing nowadays and in the near future. That's why it is important that in today's World Soil Day, it wouldn't be a better time for launching this initiative, which essentially connects perfectly with the program that Syngenta has been driving since 2013, when we launched what we named our Good Growth Plan, or I would call it naming in Spanish, Plan para una Alimentación Sostenible, in which basically we put in place practices with the growers to improve the quality of the 14 million hectares of soil land and in a global scale by introducing good agricultural practices for bringing soils back from degradation, as I said, in the such an mentioned area. And recently, in this year, we announced the launching of the second phase of our Good Growth Plan, in which we basically committed again to publicly implement basically 4 pillars. And I would like to emphasize two of them, which connects to the theme we're talking about today. One of them is a Good Growth Plan. Our first pillar is accelerate innovation for farmers and nature, in which Syngenta basically will invest within the next 5 years, $2 billion in sustainable agricultural innovations. And on the other hand, also, we committed to bring 2 breakthroughs innovations for sustainable agriculture and during the next 5 years. And the other pillar in which we committed within our Good Growth Plan is strive for carbon neutral agriculture, which essentially connects with the soil health initiative. And one of them, our KPIs will be that we'll be putting in place practices for 3 million hectares per year with a related to soil health. So that has been, I would like also to emphasize what has been our experience during these 7 years of implementing the Good Growth Plan, with a few examples of projects that we've been putting in place regarding soil health and sustainable agriculture. One of them is a project Reverte that we are launching in Brazil and Cerrado zone, in Cerrado region, in which we target to bring back from degradation 1 million hectares of pasture lands by introducing good agricultural practices in partnership with the recognized the Nature Conservancy NGO and the Embrapa institution in that country. Also, I would like to mention our experience in Colombia with the Ecoaguas program, in which this is a reforestation program that for more than 25 years, we have planted more than 50,000 trees on a year basis in the source of main waters sources for irrigation in some of the key agricultural areas of Colombia. And also it has created a strong impact on not only on soil health, but also on biodiversity. In Mexico, we have implemented a project named EMAF, which essentially targets to improve the efficiency in dairy production by conserving the soil through good agricultural practices, improve corn varieties that produce the yield, a better forage for the cattle. And another project that we have implemented is our partnership with the CIMIT in Mexico, in which we basically have been promoting good agricultural practices for soil conservation, non-tillage, minimum tillage, that has impacted more than 1 million hectares, as I said, in partnership with this is a recognized institution, the Center for Breeding for corn and wheat in Mexico. Just also to mention that all of our seeds production facilities are now committed for 100% implementation of conservation practices. By this, we essentially put this on availability, on your disposition, that our experience in dealing with the soil health that can be used and can be shared with other stakeholders, such as, say, IICA, such as our industry, the research institutions. And again, we salute this initiative, and we are strongly committed to participate and contribute with this initiative created by IICA and Dr. Lal. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Muchas gracias, señor José Antonio Isambert. Es líder de negocios sostenibles para Latinoamérica Norte en Syngenta. Inmediatamente quiero verificar si está conectado el director global de asuntos corporativos para las divisiones Essential Dairy y Plant-Based de Danone, Facundo Echevere. Si Facundo no está conectado, Facundo, ¿está conectado?
Facundo, are you connected? So now we will move on to the president of the Producers Association of Argentina. Good morning to everyone. Thank you to IICA and to the center, the Carbon Management and Sequestration Center headed by Dr. Lal. It is an honor to be here. I wanted to tell you that in Brazil, we're working through the direct planting system on the always green agriculture. This was an initiative we launched last year that is focused on always having green agriculture on the soil to promote the direct planting system. As you know, the direct planting system allows to reduce soil degradation by 90% and also reduce water evaporation by 70% and achieve a 60% reduction of fossil fuel. This initiative allows us to capture solar energy and capture a larger amount of carbon, increase organic matter in soil, and thus increasing productivity. Last year, or rather this year, in August of this year, we held a congress that focused on this thematic area. The Congress was called Always Alive, Always Green. We addressed anything that had to do with the soil care and conservation. This Appreciate Congress, with this Appreciate Congress, we also had a project called YOSPA that we have been implemented for over a decade, where we were able to study what happens with soil microbiology and biodiversity of soil with ecosystemic services. Finally, I would like to tell you that upon a proposal made by IICA and with the collaboration of Dr. Ratan Lal, we will be participating in the meeting of youth impact, where we will be presenting a project to recarbonize soils that is in line with the initiative promoted by IICA and the Carbon Management and Sequestration Center headed by Dr. Lal. This is based on the soils on the thematic of living soils in the Americas. This is a brief summary of our work at APRESID and the project that we consider is very important, that has the participation from IICA and the Carbon Management and Sequestration Center. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I tried to be brief because I know that we have a very busy agenda. So thank you very much.
Señor Presidente.
Thank you. Chairman of the Argentinian Association of Direct Planting Association, APRESID, José Luis Tedesco. Thank you for your participation. Thank you for your summary. We now have the words of Ruth Junkin, Deputy Regional Director of Catholic Relief Services. Ruth, go ahead. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Manuel Otero, Dr. Ratan Lal, ministers, representatives of international organizations, and key guests. On behalf of CRS, I would like to congratulate IICA and the Ohio State University on the launch of the Living Soils Initiative. Catholic Relief Services is an international humanitarian organization that views soil health as fundamental for food security and achieving dignified, resilient, and sustainable livelihoods. Land restoration is one of the key outcomes of our 2030 strategy, our global soil restoration platform, and our flagship Water Smart Agriculture program for Mesoamerica, which aims to restore and improve the potential of soils to sustain resilient and productive agricultural systems. Soil degradation is a global issue, and in Mesoamerica, the high levels of degradation of agricultural land and increasing frequency of droughts is driving low productivity, food insecurity, and poverty. The region has struggled with the lack of soil information, extension capacity, service providers required to reach scale with agronomic solutions for soil restoration. For the last 5 years, CRS has been working to catalyze systems change to reach scale with soil restoration in the Water Smart Agricultural Program, again for Mesoamerica. The approach focuses on key principles of soil management. Manage soil to manage water, keep soil permanently covered, build soil organic matter, and manage soil fertility and nutrients using the 4R. These are messages which resonate across cropping systems, across agroecological zones, and across countries. Our goal to achieve transformation at scale requires commitment and collaboration of key agricultural institutions in each country. The scaling strategy involves strengthening and directing support services, programs, education, and extension in water smart agriculture to provide farmers with the key services they need to restore their soil and water resources. This means collaborating at multiple levels with ministries of agriculture and the environment, local municipal governments, research institutions, local and international NGOs, cooperatives, farmer organizations, and the private sector to strengthen services and the capacities. Some of the key achievements that we have achieved so far include the reform of educational curriculums to include water smart agricultural competencies, including community and national technical schools, and initiating a Central American master's level program in soil and water management. We have also developed a national digital soil mapping capacity in institutions in Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, and Guatemala, which to date has resulted in 32,000 hectares of land mapped for decision-making at the national level and in regional programs. We're also working to strengthen extension systems around soil and water management through training of trainers and farmer field schools in both coffee and grain systems, reaching 90,000 farmers to date. Scaling, we have also been working to scale water smart agriculture practices across entire watersheds through our Raíces program in El Salvador, and that is set to expand. And we have been building evidence of water-smart agricultural impacts on soil health, productivity, and income in a network of 3,000 on-farm trials in the region. Our on-farm research shows that WSA, or water-smart agricultural farmers, are producing an average of 40% more basic grains, earning more, are more resilient to extreme climatic events, and that water-smart agriculture has the potential to mitigate climate change through carbon sequestration. In closing, soil health restoration is fundamental for productive and resilient agricultural systems and can provide solutions to some of the region's most significant socioeconomic and environmental issues, and thus is a priority for Catholic Relief Services. Finding new ways of collaborating across a variety of stakeholders, including farmers, governments, donors, researchers, and implementers, will be essential to scaling up measures to restore soil health. There are currently 80 organizations collaborating with CRS and Water Smart Agriculture in the Land Restoration Platform, and we welcome new collaborations and alliances moving forward with these goals and hope to be collaborating with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth Junkin, Deputy Regional Director, Catholic Relief Services. And before the final comments for this event by Dr. Manuel Otero, Director General of IICA, I would like to correct an omission that was something not on the agenda. The Vice President of Agricultural Affairs, Dean of the School of Food Sciences and Environmental Sciences of the Ohio State University, has sent a video regarding this partnership and the signature of the technical cooperation agreement between the university and IICA that we will proceed to watch now before the final comments. Is the video ready? Thank you.
Greetings from the College of Food, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences at The Ohio State University. I'm Kath Ann Kress, Vice President for Agricultural Administration and Dean. We're delighted to join all of you, including the Ministers of Agriculture from the Americas, Director General Dr. Otero, and other esteemed colleagues on World Soil Day to draw attention to sustainable agriculture, soil health, and the leadership of our own Dr. Ratan Lal. The partnership between the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture and the Ratan Lal Carbon Management and Sequestration Center at The Ohio State University will serve as a vital bridge for science and policy, research and application, the public and private sectors, and academicians and farmers. It directly represents the spirit of translating science into action and a fundamental paradigm shift. These programs will empower farmers to produce more from less input of fertilizers and pesticides, less water, less land overall. It will ensure producers can directly benefit from good soil management practices, enriching their livelihoods and those in their communities. The Living Soils in the Americas initiative embodies the concept of One Health, the idea that the health of soil, plants, animals, and people, and the environment is one and indivisible. Soil is literally the foundation of the health of all living creatures on the planet. All of us look forward to the partnership and look forward to a productive event. Best wishes from all of us in the College of Food, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences at The Ohio State University.
Muy bien, agradecemos.
Thank you. We would like to thank Ms. Catan-Cress for her message, simply because twice this was mentioned during the video prepared by IICA, and this was also mentioned by Dr. Lal. These are words of the Dean regarding the indivisibility between plant, soil health, plants, animals, persons, environment. And I would simply like to add, before offering the floor to Dr. Otero, that this individual nature is also reflected in the language. The etymology of the term soil, it comes from Latin, solum, which means the sole of your foot. That means basically home, house. So that gathers everything. The soil is each and every one of us human beings, and the soil is also the place where we live, our home, our land. Go ahead, Dr. Otero, Director General of IICA, for your closing comments for this important event. Well, thank you very much, Guido. I was thinking about that. Very good comment, very timely reflection. I will be very brief. This has been a very intense day, very enriching, and I would like to thank you all for your participation, your commitment. The objectives of the program have been clearly defined by Professor Ratan Lal. I am not going to repeat those. I would just like to highlight that this is a program that reflects, gathers, and highlights the central nature of soils and in the role of farmers and producers, which, as he said, none can or will be left behind. Regarding the operational side, where there's clear responsibility of IICA, allow me to commit to all of you. I pledge that we will be articulators, that we will integrate efforts, that we will not duplicate existing initiatives, and that hopefully we can be accountable to you with early victories. For that, I am sure that early next year we will circulate this roadmap, because this is something that cannot be delayed. We need to start working on this immediately, because the home we all inhabit requires putting soil as a central element of all our strategies. Next year is going to be a very dynamic year, where certainly in October we will hold the UN Food Systems Summit. And before that, we will have the hemispheric meeting of the Ministers of Agriculture, the highest level at IICA, and we will possibly be holding meetings by sub-region also, calling upon the productive chain members. And I can assure you that soils will be present in all those discussions. And I assure you that we will advance on this, all of us together. So with this program and with the leadership of Dr. Ratan Lal, I say it is now time to move into action. And IICA, with the support of the ministers and the private sector of multilateral funding agencies and international cooperation agencies, you will be able to see progress. And I would like with this to recognize the work of our Federico Villa, Karen Wiskowski, and everybody at IICA, absolutely everyone. Although we are a small army, we are fully convinced that this is a fair cause, a noble cause. And our producers need to have the best policies and the best strategies possible. So as Director General of IICA, I express our appreciation for this meeting we are about to end. And since this is also the end of the year, happy holidays to all of you. Holidays full of peace, safety. Hopefully next year, when we start to analyze some of the partial achievements, we can be celebrating face-to-face, hopefully in face-to-face meetings, as I said. So once again, very humbly, be sure that IICA is available to you, particularly through this Living Soils program that we are launching today and making available to the countries and their institutions, and particularly for all farmers. Thank you very much. Very well. Thank you. Thank you, Director General. Dr. Lal has some final comments. The floor is yours. And go ahead. Go ahead. Yes, please.
Thank you. I just want to thank Dr. Otero, thank my dean, Dr. Catherine Kress. I'm very impressed with the enthusiasm of all the participants. It was very well done. Each one expressed very strong support for the initiative, and I'm delighted and honored to be a partner in this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lal. And with an applause from the participants, we greet the ministers, the secretaries, the representatives of international funding organizations, representatives of the private sector, IICA staff present here, and once again, Dr. Lal, academic authorities, thank you all very much. Thank you for joining us at this IICA event, launching the Hemispheric Initiative of Living Soils in the Americas. Thank you all very much. Goodbye.